Before watching the Book of Kells, I went and read three reviews to get a general gist of the film. Three impressions I got was that it had a very good and retro-styled art style, it had a weaker narrative, and it is a very unique film. I agree with those three, but I'll get why to that a little bit later. So the scene I chose to specify on is I chose to focus on a particular scene near the beginning due to its artistic style and what it tells us about Brendan, the main character. At 18 minutes and 22 seconds in, we see Brendan drawing out a scene. The scene is drawn out as it is a primitive child's drawing on a chalkboard. This scene first shows us him leaving a part of the wall around his city. This is so he can help brother Aiden retrieve materials to help him make the best page he can in the book he is making. After that, it shows us him returning with the materials and celebrating. Then his uncle, who is the one that constructed and ordered for the wall to be built, Abbott, is shown as a growing, imposing figure. This would be ruining Brendan's plans, as he would get mad at him. He doesn't want him leaving the city. So Brendan advises he must go out early and return before anyone notices. Then he begins wondering what happens if we get lost in the forest, and then the forest morphs into a monster that attacks him. He then, in anger, throws the chalkboard, shattering it, saying he shouldn't leave. But then he gets a second burst of passion to go out and do so, and begins drawing the book, the page he wants to help being made. He wants to help Aiden in any way he can to create this great page. He then draws a plan of him going to the forest, puts on the chalkboard after finalizing plan, and then proceeds to go to sleep. We can see major things about Brendan and his uncle Abbott throughout this scene. We know from earlier in the film that Abbott is constructing this grand wall to keep the town of Kells safe from the Vikings in the north pillaging it. We also know Brendan has never left this town due to his uncle forbidding of it. He listens to his uncle as he is the only family Brendan has. We can see the duality being the young Brendan and his willingness to go out into danger to help someone in need, and Abbott, the older stickler who wishes for everyone to stay put due to his fear of the danger that can happen to them. The scene also uses a simplistic sod of a child-esque drawings on a chalkboard to symbolize youth and his plan. The scene from a child's perspective shows his plans in a more crude and simplistic way. This counters a scene earlier in the film of Abbott's room, where we can see he has also drawn out a plan on the walls and floor. He has his drawing and plans neatly amongst his walls, organized to make these plans of this great big city a reality. These differences later boil over when Abbott forbids him from visiting Aiden, and so that will cause him to not to go in the forest anymore. When Brendan refuses, Abbott locks him away to make sure he can't leave again. He then banishes Aiden from the city to make sure Brendan won't fall into his plans again. We can see Abbott's care for his nephew and just keeping him safe, but we can see he is taking it too far, locking everyone in the walls and this doesn't end up working for them later in the film. Brendan in the end learns us to protect him, but realizes at the same time that holding him down wasn't the best way to do so. He learns that Abbott cared, but he also realizes that Abbott did it the wrong way. The narrative to us of the scene is also a strong suit in this movie. We can see the narrative begin to play out in real time for the movie in this scene. We see the conflict between Brendan and Abbott. We see that he knows it's dangerous to go in the woods by himself. And that what happens, his uncle disobeying him. Him meeting his friend Aisling helps change that by giving someone to help Brendan. We see the tensions boil over later in the film as he gets locked in by his uncle. However, Aisling helps him escape. This eventually boils over with him defeating the monster and getting the final gem that Aiden needed to finish the page. However, this leads to boiling tensions, as now Abbott is super mad that he disobeyed him and somehow broke out. He cares, but doesn't fully care, because now the Vikings are here to kill all of them. We see this as when the Vikings attack, they kill most of the town. However, and this includes Abbott. However, we see that Aiden and Brendan escape. This shows the duality of their ideas, as Abbott, the old sticker who wanted everyone to stay, got killed for his ideas. But Brendan and Aiden, who were more adventurous and wanted to go out, with Brendan going out and getting the stuff for Aiden, they escaped the town, and they ended up living and having a life outside of the city. Overall, I enjoyed the film's visuals and the ideas it put out. The film was really pretty, especially in the sequence where he was fighting the monster. I really liked that. I felt the narrative was a bit boring at times, and the characterization throughout wasn't entirely the best. The views, the film scholarship, say many of the same things about how, The story's a little drab, it's not that great, but the visuals are amazing. Overall, the film is impressively animated, and I would recommend someone watch it.